saying? Yeah. The fanatic. Where we keep it 100, keep it real. That's the only way we know how to be. Talking that sports talk. You know what I'm saying? Straight out of South Carolina. Upstate, A64. Yeah. The FANATTIC. The fanatic where we keep it OG. We talking sports, so I call what.
Welcome into the Fanatic Sports Channel for sports fans by sports fans. It's your boy Coach I. All right, man, we in here for the Alabama-Texas preview. Got my guy college football with Johnathan Lewis. Man, what's going on, Johnathan?
Another day. I can't wait to this weekend, man. Obviously going to the game. You're gonna be there. I'm gonna be there. We're gonna be there. It's gonna be some fun times.
That's right, man. Just quick, man, before we get into it, tell everybody where they can find you. What you do, man.
All right, at College FB Lewis on Twitter. Then, as you can see on the screen, College Football with Johnathan Lewis on YouTube. Talk all college football, obviously. Yep. Other than that, good to go.
That's right, man. We're not gonna keep this short and sweet. The Clemson Tech game is on, but man, and plus I'll be with Johnathan this weekend, so we can always chop up the football like we normally do. So let's go ahead and recap this past weekend, man. Alabama cruises to a victory over Utah State, holding them to 0. I know people are like, it's Utah State. Listen, if you know how hard it is to hold an opponent to no field goals, bro, then like even as good as Georgia's defense was last year, we did it 3 times. That's it. Like it's hard to hold people to 0. So I think that says something about the Alabama defense, man.
Yeah, I'm not going to look too much into Utah State other than the fact they were 11-3 last year. They did win, obviously, their conference. Like it's not like they're a scrub opponent. I'll leave it at that. To be fair, they did lose a lot of pieces. And it's hard to know what to take away from a game like this. Obviously, we're going to talk about Texas against Louisiana Monroe. It's kind of the same thing. You just don't know where to take other than because it's so easy to criticize the mistakes in games like this. But obviously, if someone balls out like Bryce Young with 6 touchdowns, nobody ever wants to give the credit, right? So it's like there is no winning in that situation.
That's right. And Texas is coming off an easy dub, UL Monroe. Yep. So, hey, both schools, like I say, they're Group of 5 schools. They're not FCS schools, so I still
upgrade. Hey,
listen, Group of 5. Listen, App State gave North Carolina everything they wanted and more, and then Old Dominion beat Virginia Tech. So we ain't gonna sit here and act like a lot of these Group of 5s can't beat some of these teams. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, man. I'll just let you take it from here.
Yeah. So. Let's just go ahead and preview. Like I say, like you said, I don't think you can draw too much conclusion from those games. But both teams coming into this game 1-0. We got ESPN Game Day gonna be there. We gotta find out where they're gonna be, man. So maybe we can pop up with a couple signs or something. Who knows?
Yeah, I'm sure they'll be around Bevo Boulevard. I've already done some research and stuff like that. So
there it is. So let's talk about that Alabama offense, man, and how you think y'all gonna attack that Texas defense.
So. Look, the one thing I'll say that I did take away from Utah State was how good our true freshman receivers are, right? So, and that's what I was worried about. So I thought it would be more balanced and lean on the run game, throwing more to Jamar Gibbs, Jace McClellan, Roydell Williams, and Trey Sanders. But if there's one thing that I like about this offense and how I think we're going to actually attack Texas is Texas. You know, don't take no offense to this, but the corner play is garbage. It's suspect at best. So you best believe that they're going to be attacking on the outside. And when you're talking about Jermaine Burton, 2 touchdowns the last game, you're talking about, Kobe Prentice, who has speed for days. You're talking about Isaiah Bond, speed for days. Like there is so much talent in our wide receiving core, man, even as a true freshman. Like it's just scary to think about how we're going to attack the Texas defense. And this is just a bad matchup for Texas. When you look at this, there's so many unknowns, right? What do we really know about Quinn Ewers after the UL Monroe games? Well, I have some positives for him, but I also have a lot of negatives, right? So, but once again, look who you're playing. But yeah, I do believe that's how we're going to attack Texas. I believe you're going to see a ton of movement. I believe you're going to see a ton of, crossing patterns. I think you're probably going to see Jermaine Burton flying down the sideline on a post pattern consistently all game. They're going to test the secondary. There's no doubt about that. They're going to spread them thin, probably 4 and 5 wide early in this game.
Well, I can tell you, man, I didn't watch all of the Alabama game, but I did watch enough of it. I saw some things that, Texas is definitely going to have to prepare for, and I'm pretty sure their defensive coordinators are talking about that this week, is that Jermaine Burton played in the slot a little bit for Alabama, which is
Yes.
scary because that means the safety is going to have to try to cover him
Yes.
or a nickel guy. You know, he played a lot of Z in Athens, but that slot, if he moved around, but he played a lot of slot, and if he's in the slot, Holden's on the outside, bro, it is going to be a challenge. What Texas has to do to have any kind of success is generate some kind of pressure on Bryce Young.
Good luck.
That's what I'm saying. But if they let Bryce Young, you know, not worry about pressure, it's going to be a long day for that Texas defense.
One thing Alabama did against Utah State, number one, our offensive line does look better. And to give credit to Texas, their offensive line did look better too. But the one thing Alabama was smart on this year, number one, they brought in Eric Wolford, right, the previous offensive line coach of Kentucky, to improve those things. He brought over Tyler Steen at left tackle from Vanderbilt. There was just so many moving pieces. But one thing they did an excellent job in that they're exploiting more than anything is that instead of keeping the running back in the backfield, they're letting them leak, right? And they did it all game against the Utah State game, so I can fully expect it against Texas. Like, yeah, bring the heat all you want. But now you're exposing either a slot, Jermaine Burton against a linebacker, which is what happened against Utah State consistently, or you're going to see Jason McClellan or even worse, Jamar Gibbs against a corner on an island. Good luck.
I was about to say, if you let Gibbs get outside one-on-one, trying to make that tackle is definitely going to be a challenge, man. So I think if they're going to do something, they should I would pressure from the outside myself. Send pressure from the outside and keep a spy in the middle. I don't know if Texas does have a really good linebacker. I forgot his name, but I don't know how good he is in coverage. But I keep him in the middle for like a spy. That way, I'm forcing Bryce Young up the middle, and because if Bryce Young getting outside the pockets, bro, you just inviting trouble into your house.
100 yards against Utah State. I mean, the Utah State game, that's another difference we saw in the offense, by the way. Bryce Young looked way more comfortable taking off and running in space. He didn't just try to force the ball down the field. If there's an opening, he's taking it.
When I saw that, I called my boy and I said, Nick Saban is such a genius. I actually believe Nick Saban told him to run a little bit more, not so that in the big games he can run, but so in the big games, the defensive coordinators have to prepare as if he might run, which causes, you know what I'm saying, that causes a lot of your guys that can cover or run to the outside that half a step slow because they like, I don't know if Bryce going to run or not. You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't be surprised if I don't see Bryce run at all against the Texas game, but it still holds the defense in place because they know he can run. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So on to the other side of the ball, man. I mean – we can talk about Alabama's defense all day. I mean, Will Anderson, what a lot of people don't realize is with all the sacks that he had last year, the dude is actually better at run stopping than he is at rushing the passer. So I'm looking for ways that, like, we know Bijan Robinson. We don't know what Quinn Ewers is going to be. They did take some deep shots on UL Monroe. I think he was kind of like a 35 to 40% completion on the deep ball, so we don't really know what that is.
Stares down receivers, pretty bad. They got exposed on that first drive, and then the announcers brought it up, and I kept watching. I'm like, man, this guy, now it's smart because Steve Sarkisian is doing what he did with Tua Tagovailoa, and he's a young quarterback, right? He's not experienced. So what he's doing is he's only giving Quinn Ewers half the field to look at, right? And I know a lot of people are going to say it's limited, but in the grand scheme of things, it will help him. It should limit the mistakes. But that first drive against UL Monroe, I just have to point this out. Look, dude, from an Alabama standpoint, if you're running, don't throw across your body into like three deep coverage and got intercepted right away. And I'm like, man, you can't do that against a team like Alabama or anybody in the Big 12.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that Texas – should concede or Bama should concede a loss if at any point. But you're right about what Sark is doing. Like, this is why quarterbacks want to play for Sark. Sark knows how to bring you along, regardless of how slow. I know some fans might not understand that, but giving him half a field to read is helping his progression because if you just put him out there blindly, there's going to be a lot of stuff that Alabama can throw at you with mixed coverages where you run a zone on one side, man on the other side, zone umbrella with man underneath that might confuse him into some bad plays. And what you don't want to do is start the young dude off, with a absolutely horrible game. You know what I'm saying?
And one thing Alabama added into this defense that I saw against Utah State that I've never seen in an Alabama defense is I don't know what you would call it. I would call it probably a robber on the defensive line, where we'll bring 6 guys up to the line, right, and including the snap of the ball. But one of those defensive linemen will drop back in coverage if there's a slot receiver as a hot read. And when I saw that, I'm like, okay, these Pete Golding and these guys are taking the line to a next level now. They're expecting more out of the line, and it should free up Will Anderson and Dallas Turner a little bit more the later in the game as it goes, as they'll have to adjust to that. And I think you're going to see a lot of that against Texas.
Yeah, so, and if I'm Texas, I'm looking to hit the seams, whether that's a slot receiver or a tight end. I don't know the status of Jaleel Billingsley. None of that.
He's not playing. He's not playing.
Okay, so he's not playing. I did see that they made a Jai Hall eligible for this game, so Jai Hall will be there. But how you can try to take advantage of Alabama's defense is to hit those seams. I mean, you know, the linebackers aren't the greatest in coverage. They can, but not the greatest. But if you try it on the outside, it's not going to work. You got Kool-Aid McKinstry. You got Jackson. Listen, man. It was the best play of the night, or I should say smartest play of the night, was Utah State tried to run a bubble screen or a wide receiver screen. Kyrie Jackson knew that he couldn't get to the guy, so he literally just ran full speed into the wide receiver blocking and knocked him into the guy. I was like, that you talking about a heads-up play and a physical play? Like, so if I'm Texas, I'm using Bijan, of course. We know how good Bijan Robinson is. And I'm using whatever tight ends we got and slot receivers trying to hit that seam, man, to try to alleviate that pressure too. Like you said, some hot routes, because Dallas Turner and Will Anderson will be coming off those edges.
Yeah, and they're going to be coming off quick. And to give credit to Texas, because you have to give them credit at some point, right? Even as an Alabama fan, Bijan to me is the best running back in the country. If not top 2. Quinn Ewers, I wouldn't talk down against Quinn Ewers, because we don't know what to expect out of him. He could be great, or he could be a bust. We don't know that, so I'm not going to sit here and assume what he's just going to do. All I know is that, and I get a lot of Texas fans' frustration during this game, because I can already see it. He's going to be reading half the field, like you said, man, and I said, and, they're going to limit to what he can do, because if you open up, like you said, the full playbook and the full field to this guy, as a freshman, like, you're asking a whole hell of a lot, like you said, out of a multiple front that constantly rotates, and there's so much movement with our safeties now in the back end, pulling up, going back, just like it was with Kirby Smart. We're getting more along to that system again. Yeah. Like you said, mixing up man on one side, zone to the other. Like, this guy's hair will be on fire by the end of the night. So
that's right. And like you said, we all know Quinn has talent, but talent doesn't always equal productivity if you don't do it right. So I think Sark knows that, and he's not going to go out here and lay it all on the line just so he can say he beat Bama and mess his risk ruining his quarterback's mental or whatever. I'm not saying that they can't win, but Sark is a good coach, and he's not gonna risk that kind of setback for a young quarterback, especially when they're trying to win the Big 12. And Oklahoma did look pretty decent on Saturday, them and Baylor. So it's going to be an interesting game. I think the first quarter or so, it's going to be a lot of hype. I'm pretty sure that this crowd is going to be raucous in Austin, man. So it's going to be interesting. So let's go ahead and get them predictions in. We'll get it on film, man. So, I know Texas fans are probably going to watch the video and like, man, y'all didn't say a lot of good stuff about Texas. But the thing is, Texas is Bijan and Quinn Ewers. Like, that's where the stars. And we don't know about half of that combo. You know what I mean?
And I got to give credit to Xavier Worthy. He's one of my favorite receivers that came out, a couple of years ago in the recruiting class. And he balled out for Texas last year. And, it's one of those things to where I'll give you respect when you earn the respect, just like, Alabama had to do it, because I talked down about Alabama, as everybody should know by now if you watch my channel. It's the same thing with Georgia. I gave them their flowers, just like I predicted them to win the SEC last year. So it's no disrespect to Texas, but until you not lose to Kansas, and not do these things, and progress and be consistent, and let's see what Quinn Ewers can do. That's all I'm going to give you. So
I just think you mentioned it earlier in the video. I think it's a bad matchup this early in the season. Like I say, young quarterback going against what I've said all season is the best defense, top to bottom. I think Clemson's D line is probably the best. I think you guys got the best linebackers, and you got a good secondary, definitely top 5. So I think that's a tall task for a young quarterback, regardless of how talented they are. It kind of reminds me of Trevor Lawrence going against A&M his first year. You know what I'm saying? It's like Trevor Lawrence we all know how gifted he was, but he struggled against that Texas A&M defense, and Kelly Bryant had to come back in the game to save the game because of the experience. So we'll go ahead and get these predictions on, man. I'm going to let you go first, and then I'll give my prediction.
I don't think it's going to be as high scoring as most people would probably predict. I think Texas is going to bring a lot of energy to it, right? It's going to be in Austin. There's going to be a lot of fight behind Texas because of this being Steve Sarkisian at Alabama. Kyle Flo was at Alabama. Jeff Banks was at Alabama. There's so many players, Agiah Hall, Keelan Robinson, the running back, Jaleel Billings. There's just so much Alabama right connection here. There's going to be some fight. There has to be. And you want to see that as a Texas fan. You want to see some fight put up, even if you lose, obviously. So I'm going to take Alabama 31-21 in this game. So I think it's going to be within 10. I really do. And I think Quinn Ewers is going to surprise a lot of people. I think he's going to play a little bit better than what he did against UL Monroe. That's what I'm going to expect at least. So, yeah, 31-21.
Okay. I can see that. I can see it being like that. The only problem I have with that score is
the 21.
I don't know if the 21. The 21. Yeah. That's the. I can see it being a 10. You know, if Texas come to play like, you know, we think they have the athletes. Come on, man. We've been seeing all these 5-star reports come out, and Texas is in the top 10 for 5 stars, even though the results hadn't shown it yet. But I just don't see them, the 21.
Well, so my
that's rough.
My logic was honestly this: if it's not at Texas, I'm saying 13. But the reason I'm saying just 21 in general, because I know the math doesn't add up right, but I use Vegas. I do a lot of gambling. I used is it's at Austin, and what I'm counting on happening in this game, like it typically does against Alabama on road games, is a punt return for a touchdown, a kickoff return for a touchdown for Texas, something along those lines to add those additional points that maybe the game is actually worse than what it probably looks like on paper.
I got you. So I'm going 27-13. That's what I'm going to say. 27-13. Of course, I can see, like you say, special teams, maybe even a scoop and score, because one of the skilled players, you know, mishandled the ball or whatever. They're going to be flying to the ball. Emotions are going to be very high at the beginning of the game. You know what I'm saying? So I can see a 27-13 Bama win, man. So,
but I will say this: if Texas, if their corners don't show up right away, the game's going to get really out of hand. A lot worse than that really quick. It will get out of hand.
I'm going to tell you like this. If their corners don't show up and Quinn Ewers is a deer in headlights, it's going to look a lot like Oregon, Georgia.
Yes, and that's what I don't want to see. Because I'm going to the game, so I want to see a decent game, right?
I don't think that's going to happen. But it could turn ugly that quick. I don't see a scenario where it turns ugly for Bama at all. But if Quinn Ewers and those DBs, like you say, don't come to play, this thing could get, you know, ugly, and then they can start to press once they get down a little bit. So that's what is going on, man. Hey, y'all be in the Austin area, college football with Johnathan Lewis and Coach I, the Fan Addict. We will be out there. I'm looking for sports bars, looking for tailgates. I think Johnathan said we're going to hit Bevo Avenue?
Bevo Boulevard.
Bevo Boulevard. Game day will be there as well, so it's going to be a wild experience. It's on the bucket list for your boy, so I'm going to be happy to be there. Hey, man, I couldn't ask for a better start to college football weekend. Listen, Georgia-Oregon tickets fell in my lap Friday night. I was in the bins for the beatdown. And hey, listen. Our alumni association in my city called me. Hit us up in the group and was like, "Hey man, I got a couple of tickets. Just trying to get some money back, $100." I was like, "Give me 3 of them, dog." Now I'm going to Austin to get to actually get around this Texas football location, man. It's something that I've always wanted to do. So it's gonna be interesting, man.
Yeah, Austin's nice, man. I live in San Antonio, and I go up to Austin all the time. It's such a nice city.
There it is, man. College football with Johnathan Lewis. Tell them where they can find you again, man.
College football with Johnathan Lewis on YouTube and at College FB Lewis on Twitter. Talking all college football. I hit recruiting really heavy in the off season, so believe it or not, more than the in season stuff. So, yep.
There it is, man. Johnathan Lewis is Coach out of Fan Addict. We out of here.
We got it jumping like it's that valley. I call my dogs out the pound. Let's go eat. Turn on the Fan Addict. Let's have a debate. Who really hold down the Southeast from state to state? What team hungry gonna eat everything up off they plate?